Howdy, my name is Jackal. I will be reviewing the Scrim VoD for you guys. So, just to give you a bit of information about me, I am a 4.3k, I guess a flex player. I primarily specialize in DPS and anything from hit scan to projectile. So, theoretically, I'm a DPS flex, but I can play at anything, basically in Overwatch, unfortunately. Um, I've been coached by XL2's IOStocks. I've been coached by assistant coach for Dallas Fuel Jane Tikati, who is also assistant coach for Dallas Fuel. I've been playing this game for 2 years, basically on teams the entire time, all the way down as slow as Diamond, I believe, is when I joined the team. Um, yeah, so I have 2 years of basically team experience, of scrimming experience, open division experience, just high competitive level experience overall. I have prior history in the past of playing competitively in Call of Duty 4, for example, on the Team Warfare League ladders, CS 1.6, CS Source, so forth. So I have an extensive history in first-person shooters as a competitive platform overall. So I was advised this map was something you wanted for, have me review and go over overall. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Okay, so that's unfortunate. So Sombra is a good pick here. Sombra, I'm assuming you're running Sombra Genji from what I see here. You have Lucio, Ana, Winston, Diva. I didn't see you press tab yet, so. Okay, so the trick to that is that you will see where she's spraying randomly and just avoid those areas or wait for the opportune moment. So a lot of playing to Sombra is finding the opportune moments between the spam for where you can move and advance to a different position. So overall, your better option of scouting is to go down main. So the side alley option is really not optimal because there's like it's a really tight hallway for spam, right? Because you only literally like when you go, you have this, right? And then you have the stairs that go up. You can go up and around or down, go all the way behind the point and such. Or you have just the point itself. On main, you have a bit more of a wider hallway, right? So the hallway is like this big as comparison to like something like this big as a doorway here, I guess, right? So your best option is to go main. So the highest expectation of where a flank or where a team is coming from is obviously from high ground here, or they come from the bus main, jump onto high ground, and then walk up once they have cooldowns, or they're coming far right side, like far back side, and taking the point aggression. So like if this was the point, your team would set up here on the corner of the point and force the fight to the point itself. This is very common in a static comp or like a brawl comp where you're basically just playing like Ryan Zarya or like very grounded tanks. So going through main past the bus, like no one's gonna expect you to kind of go through main. You can even walk onto point because with Sombra's invisibility, you don't start contesting, so they don't even know you're on the point, and you're on the point, and you could scout everything out. So scouting is a good thing. So obviously it's great that you have someone to scout out positions and such to let you know where everybody is, so that you know where to engage and where to start the dive from. So that's a great start. Okay, who does McCree pose the highest threat to? Genji. That's it. So they have a Winston D, but we know that for a fact as well, right? It's not weird. It's very common for teams that haven't encountered a lot of Sombra. That's what they primarily like to do. It's a waste of time, honestly. To be fair, because when she's invisible, she's not a threat, and when she uncloaks herself from invisibility, it's a very loud, audible cue. And generally, immediately afterwards, you hear that cue. You also hear a hack. So it's two distinct audio cues and signals that will immediately alert you to the position of the Sombra. So as long as you're able to utilize a flick and just put any damage onto her, it will immediately cut off her hack. So I believe one of the greatest examples, I'm trying to think here. So playing against the Sombra, if I go into, was it here? No, it was not here. It was not in the memes channel either. I'm trying to think where I had that. So there was like one specific occasion where actually, I think it was in these highlights. Let me just scroll up and find myself here. If we look at a clip like, because Sombra is very, very predictable. Like, it's very easy to read her. The one time I played Doomfist, I had to brag to my GM Doomfist friend. Yeah, so like here's one for example. Let's bring it up here. Right, so this is Jane. Okay, it's playing in like 6 places at once. But essentially, right, so Sombra is currently not in stealth, right? So she thinks, okay, he just used Storm Arrow, he's an easy target, he doesn't have a rapid fire rate. Okay, and she's dead. I fucked him up, right? So here's another instance. This time he was cloaked, right? So if you listen, audio cue 1, and then the second audio cue, right? So it's not hard to really like deal with a Sombra overall if you're facing one yourself, right? You hear the audio cue of Sombra coming out of her stealth, you hear the audio cue of the hack starting up, and the hack, like, it's directional. Like, you will actually hear it in your ears where she is coming from. So it's not a very difficult thing to counter a Sombra. So as I mentioned, like, just spamming around wildly is actually a waste of time, and it's actually something you can exploit and take advantage of. The reason I say that is because sometimes people are stupid and they like to use cooldowns on it. So, for example, if D.Va all of a sudden just used micro missiles just to expand her area of attack, that's a cooldown that has been wasted, right? You can prioritize on that, and you can actually choose D.Va as a priority target because now her DPS is significantly reduced because a part of her kit is the missiles, right? Her DPS output is pretty significant with the missiles because she could literally just booster into someone, missile someone, melee, and mix in left clicks with that, right? It'll easily take out a 200 health target in no time. But overall, you basically want to pay attention to the lanes of spam, right? Because they're spamming in specific areas or they're trying to spam specific locations. Like, I doubt this person was spinning on like 3600 DPI, spinning like 360s like it's nobody's business and just shooting randomly. I'm pretty sure they had a very methodical way of spamming it, either into like doorways or chokes or onto the stairs or high ground to try to bait you out. So you want to kind of find that pattern, right? Because that's one thing a lot of people do is when they spam locations or spam spots, like specific doorways or any location or just the whole point overall, they like to have a specific pattern, right? So you want to kind of quickly identify what that pattern is. Like, do they go from lower to higher? Do they go from higher to lower? Are they doing a strafing motion like this? Are they going like this? Like, how are they doing that spam? So you can utilize that. So if they're going lower to higher, you know that the next round when they start the spamming, they go low ground and then they go to high ground, which means if you pass through low ground, you have a window to basically move forward with. Okay, so you weren't ready. um, so right here, right? So you don't actually set up back here. So if you're calling a dive, you can actually stand right here so that you're more ready, because there's going to be a couple seconds of delay from your main dive team from making the actual dive on the high ground to when your supports are going to be able to like finally peek out through the high ground here and help you out. So you kind of want to, when you're setting up for things, so it's called stacking, right? So you're stacking up somewhere together. You have a Lucio in pocket, so theoretically, this is how I would like to see you kind of play this out, right? So you'll have your supports here. Your dive is about to call the dive. 3, 2, 1, boom, awesome. They make the dive. Your supports peek out. Your Ana starts supporting the tanks, and what your Lucio can do is your Lucio can actually wall ride across the gap on center and go help the tanks out, or basically boop off a priority target. So, for example, if there is a Winston and a D.Va up here, right? And let's say they just used cooldowns, if Lucio rides in, does a quick boop, they are now on the low ground, and all you have left is supports and DPS, right? So you can literally kill out supports, DPS, anyone else that's on the high ground. Or you boop them off, and now you force them to use the cooldowns, which puts you at an advantage for any resulting fight during like the mid fight, right? In the mid fight, let's say all of a sudden, like, you guys have your cooldowns back up. You can call a retarget to someone else, like, oh, on point, or Zen on point, Zen on point, right? You can jump down to Zen on point, you can finish Zen real quick and jump back up, and while you're already back up there going for, whatever else is left there, they probably already reacted by jumping down, and now they don't have cooldowns, so now you're basically up there for free. And also in the same kind of scenario, like if you're baiting those cooldowns, if the D.Va and the Winston do use their cooldowns to get back up onto the high ground, your Ana in this position, which is probably where I'm expecting her to be, in this position here, is safe, right? Who's going to dive her, right? D.Va and Winston, one of the biggest divers, is basically no cooldowns, can't even get to the Ana to begin with. Yeah, so like you should have been set up a little further. Thank God the speed helped out. Good call. Like I said, like, Ana's not being contested by absolutely anyone here. Like, you're not being contested at all. You have no contestation here. Nobody's even looking at you, right? Nobody even cares that you're here. This is why I said, like, if Lucio just basically uses his speed, wall rides the wall here, and then crosses the gap to try to come here and help out the tanks and supply, like, a steady healing or boop off any key targets, it would be major, right? Because the benefit to Lucio is that Lucio doesn't have to be standing up the ass of Ana to be able to provide peels for her, right? Like, if someone all of a sudden came up and dove Ana, Lucio can literally exactly the way he got to this high ground here, he can also wall ride this, jump over, get here, boop someone away. Ana has a nade that she can save herself with, and she also has a sleep to possibly sleep any flanking target or any target that's trying to dive her, right? So she has certain amount of sustainability for herself, so you don't need an immediate reaction to save the Ana in order to basically provide a successful peel. You just need a few seconds, right? Like if you're literally like 2 seconds away, that 2 seconds is long enough for a nade to sustain an Ana to the point where you get there and you boop the target further away so they can't hit the Ana and the Ana's safe, and then everyone else can react, right? So in this scenario, it's a bit sloppy in the sense that your healers were slightly delayed. So if this was like a higher ranked team or a higher scrim, your monkey would have been dead by the time your Ana actually passed through those stairs to get into this position where she's at right now. So monkey would have been dead already. But I regress. It worked out, but again, it's a bit sloppy because you were a little bit further back. And when it comes to heals, like every single little bit amount counts. So for examples, like D.Va's a great character, an example for just how much timing for heals matters on a hero or an ability like Ana has, where it's basically an overtime, right? It's a certain amount, like let's say it takes 4 seconds to deal out 80 health, right? Right? So you're cutting that by 4, right? So you're dealing 20 health per second, right? So every second kind of matters here. So if you had just that 2 extra seconds of where, let's say D.Va was at 10 health and you just started healing her, but she took 30 damage, then she's out of mech. You'll see this a lot in ladder or sometimes when a D.Va gets heavy pocketed and she still gets demeched, right? You'll see the mech gain health almost back to full, but the D.Va is still demeching out of it. That's because the heals were too delayed or too late to where the damage output or the burst that was being supplied to the mech was higher than the healing that was being provided. So keeping tanks topped off and at like a decent level of health is always important, and having the timing to be able to be there to supply that healing is also very important. So when you need heals, don't dive into enemies. You're relatively safe on the high ground. You could actually sit on the high ground, and you could even, kind of play the cover here and be like, I need to heal on heals. Like, okay, hold on, I'm reloading. Okay, peek me. Okay, gotcha, healed. You're good to go. In the meantime, you can like focus on here, right? Because I mean, it's peripheral vision. So like if someone's here, you can still heal them and see them, and you know that Genji's low because there's a big critical triangle, right? Like, oh my god, it's almost critical, right? And then you can basically call that out, like, okay, give me a second here, I'm reloading. Okay, peek me when she's ready. Okay, you got the peek, you got the heals, and then you're good to re-engage. It's a common thing that gets misplayed. Like you'll be critical health, engaging a target, or like jumping in the air, thinking nobody can hit you, and you're like praying for the heal dart to hit you and come in and like magically save you. It doesn't always work that way. So you wanna just like how you don't want to always trust a Rein shield for things like High Noon or a Shatter or really anything like a Diva Bomb or a Growler, you don't want to really trust a Ryan shield that much because it is bound to sometimes fail. Like if it gets spammed enough, if it gets booped away, if it gets anything done to it, if Ryan gets stunned, it yields his shield useless. So same thing with heals. You don't want to specifically rely in clutch situations for the heals because you're putting unnecessary pressure onto your healers, right? You're expecting them to hit 100% of the shots 100% of the time. You're expecting them to never miss, right? Which is inhumane, right? You can't ask someone to never miss a single shot. If you look at any statistic for even any Overwatch League player or top 500 player, whether it's specifically healers in this instance, right? If you look at their statistics, nobody has a 100% accuracy for their darts, right? Nobody has a 100% accuracy for healing, right? There is sometimes missed healing. It happens. Can it be practiced to be more consistent? Sure, but again, you can't rely on the fact of every single moment that you need a clutch dart to be hit on you that you're going to get that clutch dart. You probably won't. I'd probably say maybe 30% of the time you will. Maybe 20% of the time you will. And this is true throughout all levels of play. So it doesn't matter how high of an elo or low an elo. It's just asking a lot from someone. So to just kind of keep like a good team health topic and like a good team mentality and morale, it's better to not ask the impossible of people, right? So like I said, jumping around, dodging everybody on the enemy team while you're asking for heals on critical health is a pretty tall order to ask of someone, and it's pretty big pressure to put on someone. So it's better to actually play safer yourself so that your healers then aren't exposing themselves to unnecessary situations where like they need to get to you or it's life or death, and then they get to you and then they die, and then you get healed and then you die, and then it's like oh, it's your fault you didn't heal me, and then it's like, oh no, it's your fault because you're out of position and you're playing like an idiot. To just make things easier, play the smart way. I realize it's very tempting when playing dive characters to really get bloodlust, something I'm very well known for, and you want to kind of like almost like dive someone all the way into their spawn because like they're like 1 health. You gotta get them. You gotta kill them. But patience is a big thing to practice. It's huge. Tracer would have been a better hack here. So Lucio or Tracer would have been a better target because Lucio and Tracer are both heroes with abilities that can really fuck over in situations where it's like this, like a staggered stall or a staggered cap. So the Baby Diva just got out of mech, so the Baby Diva is likely not going to get mech back as fast as possible, right? So Tracer can blink around, she has recall, she does tons of damage, she's very annoying to deal with. Same thing with Lucio, he has boop. He has abilities outside of just clicking mouse 1, right? Whereas Baby Diva, all she has is pressing mouse 1. So when it comes to hack targets, it's usually more proactive to hack a target that's not a Baby Diva unless she's the last one alive and you just want to stagger her or you think she's close to getting her mech back. Your primary target should always be like I said, like a Tracer, a Lucio, or something like that who has actual abilities to their character class, because you're literally removing those abilities. So for example, if you hack the Lucio, he can't wall run anymore, he can't provide healing or speed boost, he can't really do much, he's just kind of gliding around like an idiot, right? If you hack the Tracers, she's just walking around like a retard because there's no blinks, there's no recall, there's nothing for her to do, right? She can't really utilize her kit. So you're shutting down an entire character essentially, and that's what Sombra is. Sombra is anti-fun, right? She shuts down all of your abilities, nothing works, not even your passive abilities. She's the anti-fun. You want to remove the fun away from someone or the ability for someone to really clutch and pull off big plays. So I bet you, like, yeah, you kill the Baby Diva, but then Tracer kills your Ana. And the Tracer's pressuring the tanks. So you have no main heals, and Tracer just killed your main tank. And then their Lucio killed your Lucio. Right, and now their team's regrouped. And then Tracer just killed 3 people. Just by herself. You can. I mean, specifically, it's not that Sombra cannot be played into this. It's that you are having a difficult time playing Sombra into this, which is a terrible mentality to have. Because do you think like an Overwatch League pro, like let's say they're playing Dive and they have Tracer Genji, do you think their Tracer or Genji player is like, no, Tracer doesn't work here or Genji doesn't work here? No, it does. It statistically and analytically does work here. It 110% works as a hero, as an ability, as a character, as everything that goes into it. It works. It's just that you yourself might not have the ability or the playstyle or basically the progressiveness to be able to adapt to make it work in this situation or scenario. right? So like one thing, as I mentioned here, was like the hack priority, right? Like Diva, Baby Diva is not as big of a hack priority as like a Tracer or a Lucio. So Lucio got a kill, Tracer got 3 kills actually there. So if you had hacked the Tracer and then killed the Tracer, you potentially could have saved 3 lives already there, right? You would have saved 3 lives, and you would have saved maybe even the point, right? Because you would have been able to have a recontest back on the point because your tanks were up there by that time. By the time everybody got together, they had no Tracer, they were kind of down, staggered out. They only had Squishies left, Baby Diva. Like, what are they gonna do, right? Um, so it's a lot about individual play. So yes, Sombra works here, guaranteed. There's no doubt about it. Sombra works in every single map, actually. In every single comp. It's actually one of the most popular things that's being played right now for scrims, for open division, by contenders team, World Cup teams. Anybody and everybody plays Sombra currently because she's really powerful in her kit and what she provides to a team, and the things that you can kind of pull off and do with her. Because as I said, she's anti-fun. She shuts down an entire hero. You're basically taking one person on the enemy team and rendering them completely useless. You can also render them as the most diveable target on the entire enemy team. So it works out really well. And then EMP shuts down an entire team. It shuts down ultimates, it shuts down pushes, it shuts down everything. So in terms of like the best ability or the best ultimate in the game, EMP and Hack is definitely like high in the top tier of the list because it does so much and it provides so much value for a team overall. So in situations like these, a pro player wouldn't quit. They would just keep going and pushing through it, right? They want to figure out and then later review, why didn't it work? What did I do wrong, right? Did I hack the wrong target here? Should I have hacked another target? Did I take the wrong pathing to get to the point? Did I scout this incorrectly? Did I place a translocator before I went in? Because if I went in and didn't place one, I died when I could have saved myself by just using a translocator to get out. So very similar to that scouting phase, right? Generally, you would want to set your translocator like somewhere in the lower halls here, like in the mega room here, or in the back right mega, or even behind this bus, anywhere, so that when you go to scout and in the off by chance, someone does notice you, you take a random like chip of spam, like the one pellet from a Diva Mecha shot from across the map, just magically hits you and does 0.2 damage to you, but it uncloaks you. You have the translocator ability to then get you out, right? You're instantly safe. But you have scouting information, and now you still have your full 6 for a team to push and do a fight with, correct? So that's something to really like go over and focus on. So far for the tank line, I don't have much because, they're calling out their dives, right? 3, 2, 1, doing counts and everything, so that's really good. You know who shuts down dive really good? Sombra. Or Doomfist. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is something like I watched a little bit of this stream itself, some of your later games. So one thing I noticed that there was like no strategizing before fights or like, really like thinking about things that will have as ultimates or things that the enemy might have as ultimates. How are we going to approach this? Okay, so we went through top and that didn't work because they had a Junkrat, Pharah, Hanzo, yada 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 that spammed us out. So we don't want to avoid tight chokes. So our options are to go from far back left and just kind of speed through because we have a Lucio, or we can go just straight through main and force them to point and then, call a dive or a target at that point. Really like think about situations, things you want to do. So the avenue paths, if you're getting spammed out from high ground, is obviously going main. If they don't have that and you have dive, you can actually even go through this top high ground here. So there's 2 ways it could play out. If their tanks are on that high ground and your tanks on this high ground and your tanks dive their tanks will probably dive your tanks or your healers at this point because then they're left unguarded. So you're kind of trading in between. So this is where the outplay comes in. Since you have a Lucio, if their dive comes and dives your supports, your Lucio can boop them off the ground. So now they're down cooldowns. They have no way to get back up. But your tanks are on their high ground taking the bee's knees to the enemy, and your supports are healing them up and helping them. That's how you outplay. That's how you win, right? That's how a successful strategy is pulled off. Summer would have shut that down so good. So the common thing is with like sleep darts, so a lot of times this will happen. You will go for the sleep first, and then when he's sleeping, you go, I slept the monkey, but someone could already be mid-shooting. So heroes with projectiles like Lucio, Zarya, right clicks, Hanzo, Genji, really anyone with like any kind of projectile ability is gonna fuck you over on that because they're likely going to wake up the target that you just slept. So when situations like this happen, the proactive thing would be that I'm going to try to sleep it, I'm going to try to sleep it, right? So everyone consciously knows that you're going to try to go for the sleep dart, so they will kind of hold back and leave it to you. So, and then if you land the sleep, you go, monkey's sleeping, awesome, you can leave him alone, right? Everyone's on the same page, everyone knows, okay, boom, that worked, that was perfect. She called it beforehand that she's going to try it, then she said she hit it, we're good to go, right? You gave full faith and full trust into one's ability, right? Putting faith into the fact that, okay, I've got sleep, I'm going to use it, I'm trying, boom, got it. I slept monkey, leave him alone, right? Or in situations where like a tracer is like flanking and you sleep the tracer with a nasty flick, you can be like, tracer's sleeping, someone come help, right? Because it's only 150 health, so it doesn't really take much. A shot and an anti is almost enough to kill a tracer. So if you have someone else to help you or even dink with a headshot, just basically 3, 2, 1, you hit the nade, they headshot or do a body shot, whatever it is, you kill the tracer regardless, right? So that is communication is a very big part for quite a few of Ana's abilities and cooldowns. You know, sleep dart, nano, even nades, right? So like I'm gonna go for purple, I'm gonna go for purple. Boom, land the purple, pew, choo, 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 right? Then your team can react and be like, okay, they can't heal this, this is that target, right? Let's kill him, let's take him out, right? Because they can't heal that back up. So this is unfortunate. So I still have yet to hear a back out, die, regroup, die quick, die on point, right? So die on point is a common term you'll hear on capture points, King of the Hill, and on payload maps. If you're pushing a payload and let's say, or you're defending a payload and you lost the fight immediately, die on cart, right? You're stalling the cart progress, but at the same time you're also resetting. Because there is a bit of a timer from the time in which you contest and in which the time the payload starts moving again. So like the time balances out versus to objective progression. Right, so something like this, like, oh, who was up there? That's because there's no plan. Like there's no strategy. Like these are things you want to articulate before you start the fight, right? If you're just gonna do the same thing, just go again. Same thing. We're gonna go through main. We're gonna jump high ground right. Healers go top left. Lucio support Ana, and then like I said, in worst case scenario, like if there's nobody contesting the Ana, go help the tanks out, Lucio, and just do your thing, right? You can boop targets off, you make them use cooldowns, you can provide, more healing to your tanks and assisting your on at the same time. Like that situation with the Genji might have not happened because Lucio could have been there the whole time providing heals. Okay. Cool. Good. Perfect. How are you going to do it? See? Where do you want me to go? So, like, again, when it comes to shot calling, don't feel pressured about this. I mean, obviously, you want someone shot calling. What my team utilizes is basically a everybody shot calls kind of institution. So, essentially, we'll have people who call general things, like someone who will want to call the direction, right? That has like an idea, right? That goes, okay, I think we should attack through main. Right? They have this idea and they provide this idea and everybody is in agreement. Okay, we'll go through main. Then you'll have someone who'll go, okay, we've got Nano and Blade, let's use Nano Blade here. Right? Let's use Nano Blade to engage. Cool, awesome. Okay, let's go through main. So now we know where we're going, where we're going to engage from, what ultimates we're using, right? And how we're going to need to support that. So of course every role has its own thing and how they're going to support it. So if you had a Zarya, Zarya would bubble Genji. If you have a Diva would matrix the Genji to try to save any kind of damage that he would take during the blade. Right, Monkey would basically, overall when it comes to blades, like most Genjis can pop off and just kill targets themselves, but in other occasions, the tanks kindly want to assist. Any other dive characters kind of want to assist the Genji because it helps kill targets faster, because there are situations when one swipe does not kill a target. So having someone to immediately kill that target from one after that one swipe is huge, because that gives an instant reset and then engagement onto the next target. So if your Genji's really good, and they practice blades a lot and they're able to kill squishies by themselves, your tank should be focusing the other big tank targets, right? So everybody else should be focusing everything else. So there's only set key people that'll be doing something specific. So obviously the Ana Nano is going to make Genji take less damage, so someone's going to be with him to try to pocket him. So Ana's going to be looking out for him to make sure he doesn't go low on health and is able to get a successful blade. And the secondary thing is D.Va will try to matrix him. And then Monkey, Lucio, Hanzo, everybody else can focus the actual tanks themselves, right? So let's see how this plays out. Yeah, like you took too long. So let's go take a look here. Should have called the reset, but we're still staring at a monkey. Jump off the map. There you go. Monkey, either get out or jump off the map. Cool. Okay. There is 1:03 on the clock. Let's see how much time we waste before we actually do something. 1:03, by the way. Everybody spawned. Good plan. We know the Tracer's holding high. We're trying to make some kind of plan. 20 seconds have passed. Okay. So almost 30 seconds passed before you did anything. That's an entire push. That's an entire fight. That's an entire attempted push or an attempted fight. Right? And the fact that we hung out so long gave the Tracer the ability to scout out the back line, because it took us 30 seconds to do something. So she's just hovering around to see where she can find an opportunity. Then she notices everybody else moved up, and she's like, oh my god, and Ana by herself, easy kill, and dead. You just lost the combo. If you reset now, you might be able to get another fight in. But I'm guessing that doesn't happen. That does not happen, correct. And it's beaten. And yep. That flopped. That flopped huge. Yeah, so keeping your mind on the time and try to make everything as fast and as efficient as possible, instead of going like, oh, who was high ground? You know, I saw this thing where it happened, and then all of a sudden I went up there, and then like, instead of doing that, I'd be like, all right, so we're gonna have to go to main. We're gonna have to try to use Nano Blade here. We're gonna go top right and get that off immediately. Everybody stack up at the bus. 3, 2, 1, go. Right? That should have been the thing that happened there in between, instead of like a whole discussion of like, oh my god, did you see that sleep dart? It was fucking insane. The Pharah was flying in the air, used the booster pack, and then got beat, and then I just hit the sleep dart, and then he fell to the ground, then he fell off the map, and it was so poggers. You should have seen it, right? Instead of doing like in between game chats like that, and this is a common thing. Like, don't feel bad about it. Everybody does this. Those moments are best saved for in between maps, or let's say after scrims, or even after scrim discussions. So something that is very commonplace to do is to, let's say you have a 2-hour scrim block, you save 1 hour to review a specific map that you wanted to review that you felt like your team overall had the worst time on, right? This is something that we did for a while, where we would do a scrim block for 2 hours, right? We'll do 8 to 10 scrim block. And then at 10 to 11, we would do a VOD review with the team. Everybody's in Discord. We throw it onto Visor, and we all watch it together at the same time. We make comments. We discuss things like, oh, what went wrong here? And then, or like, oh my god, dude, that shot you hit was absolutely insane, right? That's when discussion like that can happen. But during the game, it's very easy to lose track and focus of things when you start talking about like, oh my god, did you see that perfectly timed beat? Did you see my 6K tire? Right? You're taking the conversation away from what you should be focusing on, okay, what ultimates do we have? What ultimates do they have? How are we going to attack this? When are we going to go? Where are we going to stack up? What's the game plan, right? Like, what's going to happen? It takes you away from that, right? So it takes you away from the competitive aspect and puts you into the, hey, I'm just playing this for fun, man. Listen, if you kicked me off the team today, I would not care. I'll probably go play some Fortnite, right? So, I mean, it's when you're in a team scenario, it's supposed to be the competitive mindset, and that mindset in itself also helps improve you as individuals and as players, and also with, you know, any future teams you might go on to or future teams you might play against or with. Regardless, it basically develops you as a person, right? It's like the whole you know, I feel it's like a scumbag for saying like the whole school system, right? Like the reason you go through elementary, middle, and high school is because you're developing yourself as an individual. You're learning math, you're learning English skills, you're learning how to read, how to write, right? Things that way in the days was not afforded to as a luxury to individuals. So everyone was just a peasant working in the fields, didn't know how to read or write. Whereas now you're developing yourself through education. Like I'm gonna read, I know how to write, I'm learning science, I'm a scientist now, I went to college, right? So like that whole progression. So this is like a very similar kind of arena where you're trying to there's no teacher or anything. I mean, I guess coaches could be considered teachers, so same thing with analysts, but you're trying to develop yourself to be a more competitive and professional player, right? So small talk and chatter and being a cool memer is awesome. Don't take me the wrong way. Everybody loves a good personality, right? But it's not something that should happen in the middle of games where you're trying to win and be competitive and really learn something, right? And when it comes to that, like if you were able to pull off a successful attack or a successful dive, you would start learning things, right? So as you're diving, you're doing things. So over time, something with experience I've learned is like how to really read an enemy, right? If Ryan has shatter, I can dictate when he's going to shatter. I can tell you when Zarya's going to hit a grab. I can tell you when Genji's going to blade. I'm going to tell you when the Nano's going to go out. I'm going to tell you when Tracer's going to hit a pulse bomb. I can tell you anything because I can dictate that. I've gone out and I've played so much and I've had so many successful tries and unsuccessful tries and I've monitored enemy behavior and like overall individual behavior to kind of dictate, what's going to happen, what can I expect, and so forth. And it's basically all rounded up into what's called game sense. So the more you take your head away from like that really cool things that you do or like that really awesome thing that you hit or that ability usage that you had was amazing or your ultimate was absolutely poggers, if you distance yourself from that, there's an underlying of like, okay, the things I learned in this was like when I hit the blade, the Lucio beat it in response. So that's something we should have been able to kind of dictate. Maybe we should have gone for the Lucio first and then killed the Lucio, or done a dive onto Lucio to try to force the beat and then back out so that we wait out the duration of the beat and then push in with a Nano Blade, right? So things like that, like there's a lot of articulations and things that you can learn, and it helps get a sense for timing of things too. So, for example, I know one thing that was mentioned last night during the stream was like, ultimate usage and like how can you dictate when an enemy has an ultimate, when they won't have an ultimate, when they might have an ultimate, situations like that. It's all dependent upon individual knowledge. So, for example, if you play a lot of Ana, you will have a rough guide on how fast you get nano, depending on how much you do, correct? So if, let's say, your team has a very high damage burst output, but nobody's died yet, right? And you're at 70%, but nobody on their team has died yet, and you've had a couple of teammates die and so forth, you could surmise that their Ana is probably at like 90% or close to having nano, because she's been healing a lot more, right? You deal more damage, but she healed all that back up, so she's going to get ult charge way faster. So you can kind of dictate and be like, Ana's going to have nano, guarantee it. Same thing with Reinhardt's, right? If Reinhardt goes for a lot of cleaves and you don't get bubbled, and you know that he's been cleaving a whole lot, you can expect him to have shatter relatively soon. It doesn't take much for him to get shatter if he's cleaving into 4 targets at the same time, all the time, right? Or he's hitting big fire strikes into your entire team. Everyone gets hit with it, right? Like a 6-man fire strike is like 30 or 40% ult charge. Like, it's insane, right? So he gets a lot of charge from that. So a lot of that is paying attention to the small nuances and things that happen to really figure out when someone's going to have an ultimate, right? So same thing with like a Tracer or Genji. If a Tracer's been just like running around a whole lot and doing a lot of poking and spamming, and let's say you're about to push in and she was just hanging out, she's probably going to have Pulse Bomb. She's probably going to hang out still and wait for you guys to make your move, and then she's going to blink in, double, triple blink in, and hit a Pulse Bomb. So it's a lot of those nuances and things that you notice when you distance yourself from all the cool plays and things that you do, and just focus strictly on the game and what you're doing overall, just as a team, and what you can improve on. Okay, good. And that's one thing that I've been primarily missing. Like, you're good at calling the initial target, but you're really bad at the, like, so, like, your pre-fight is shaky, your mid-fight is shaky, and I haven't even seen the end game fight. So like, there's certain stages to a fight. There's the initial fight where you call a target and the initial dive target that you go onto. Then there's the mid-fight of what happens after you kill that target or you did not successfully kill that target. Is there a retransition onto a better target? Is there a better call that's made? Is an ultimate used? And how does your team react to the ultimate? Like, that's a lot of the mid-fight stuff. And then the end game fight is the how do you handle the last stragglers, right? How fast are you able to capitalize and kill off that last person on point or that second to last person on point? And what do you do after that? Do you push up to gain ground with most of your team and you leave one person on the cart to try to push the enemy further back so you get a free push through some of the stages? Do you play halfway of that point and then try to still get some free push, or do you not push up at all, right? So there's there and you do set it up like you all of a sudden switch to a Bastion comp and a Reese and a Reinhardt and you just pirate ship your way through the whole entire map, right? There's a lot that goes into it. So there's certain stages to fight. There's the pre-fight, the mid-fight, and then there's the end fight, right? The end game. So like one thing is primarily like there's no mid-fight at all. Like you'll call a target and then every once in a while a name gets thrown out there, but it doesn't feel like anyone is focusing on that specific name. So the one thing that is a good practice is the Korean call style, right? So if let's say Winston calls Diva and then your Diva says Diva and then your Ana says Diva and your Lucio says Diva, you now have an echo of Diva, 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 right? So if everybody goes Diva, 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 everyone's like subconsciously mindset into the fact that I should probably be shooting at Diva, right? Diva is the target to go for because all I'm hearing is a name that I can associate to a visual image on my screen. That is who I should be killing. No. Okay, never mind. You got it. Nice. Huge. Huge. So the common thing is like a lot of healers will try to recontest the cart. When you're the main healer, you're not really doing anything. You might be able to stall it out, but the problem is that because you're one single person, you can stall it out, but then your teammate gets on there and then they have no heals. So this is a common thing that happens in a lot of ladders, in a lot of games. Everything, it always happens, is like you'll have a healer here and you'll have like a tracer going in and you'll now the tracer and then you'll want to go in with the tracer. No, 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 no. Stay back here. Let your tracer do the work and focus on healing the tracer. Because a tracer has so much maneuverability, like using blinks, using recall to contest a point, and if you healed her on top of that, she would have to use less blinks, and she'll survive a lot longer. So if the tracer is able to survive a very long time, and then let's say your Winston gets back, and your Diva gets back, and then your Lucio gets back, all of a sudden you're at an advantage, right? Because you're keeping up targets while you're at the same time contesting a point, and also potentially winning a fight, right? Because if your tracer's running around and you're healing your life out of her, and the tracer kills their Ana, now you're up all of a sudden, right? You have a winning inkling. You have a chance, right? You have what's called overperforming, right? So a specific hero or a specific player on your team is outperforming. They're doing above and beyond what they should be doing in their role and creating the advantage for your team that otherwise would not exist. So like that's huge, right? So like 2 picks right there from a single ultimate, that is massive, right? That's huge, especially in the phase where it's endgame contestation, right? You're not gonna make it. Yeah, so it's not rotations you need to work on. It's your pre-game planning or your in-between fight planning and your execution of it. So like, for example, something that I most commonly use on my, or that we use on my team is like, let's say it's King's Row, right? And we're on King's Row, and this is like the wall, and there's like the bus right here, right? So there's 2 fences. So with these 2 fences, right, there's 2 sides to it. One of them is worse than the other. So obviously this one. So you never use this one. So use the left one, right? Because the left one covers a lot of area. You can't get shot from it. And then as soon as you go in, there's like the statue there, and you can kind of make the call on which way you're going. So the 3 strategies to, like, for example, King's Row is, are they holding hotel? Are they holding point? or are they holding high ground? So the strategy is that you generally run goats here and you would on attack, and when you round the corner, your Lucio calls speed, and then you immediately make the call in reaction area of where they are. So if they're a point, you go behind through hotel and push onto the point. If they're high ground, you go behind through hotel, even further behind, push to high ground, push them off the high ground, and then take the point, right? And then whoever wants to stay high ground, like your DPS or anyone else, or your healer, they can literally just stand up there for free, essentially, right? Because you pushed out all pressure from high ground, you took control of the high ground, and then you're contesting and taking over the point. And then, of course, when it comes to DPS, or even sometimes like a Zenyatta, high ground is usually beneficial for them because they have more open targets to shoot at. But essentially, the stack happens here. We go stack left-hand wall. We're all stacked. Are we here? Yes. Ready? Yes. 3, 2, 1. Speed. And then we make the call. Hotel, 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 hotel. Go behind. Or point. Right? Or statue, like whatever the call may be. But statue, we don't really push that. We just generally go through hotel for the most of it. Either to push the point to the corner and flip the sides, or to go for high ground. But regardless, right, like the call comes in of, are we ready? Like, and we'll have, like, called out what we're going to do. So in the assemble your heroes phase, we will go, okay, let's go goats. We're going to stack on left-hand side on the wall. Then we're going to try to figure out if they're holding on point or on high ground. If they're holding point, we're going to push all the way behind through hotel. If they're on the high ground, we're going to, or I'm sorry, reverse way. If they're on the point, we're going to go through hotel and push onto point through hotel, so we reverse the sides. Or if they're holding high ground, we're going to go through hotel all the way to the back and go onto their high ground through lower halls to the upper halls, and then push out anybody from high ground and then contest to the point, and I'll call it the drop, right? Someone will go, I will call the drop, right? That's a game plan. That is something you figured out. The game hasn't even started. The clock is still ticking for you to get out of spawn, and you already have articulated a plan. And this is a plan you can keep running until it doesn't work, and you can make minor tweaks, right? So if you're switching comps, we're going to go, okay, let's go Rein Zarya here, and we're going to go double sniper comp. So Rein Zarya and healers, let's go to statue. We're going to hang around statue, give our snipers a little space, and try to push onto the point, and try to go for picks, right? Again, we're discussing a plan when we're calling the switch. We're not discussing a plan once we're already there and we're like, do something, right? You figure it out. It's easier to articulate that plan, which is a plan that you never set up, right? You didn't do it at all before fights, in between fights. There was no discussion of what the next plan was. What ultimates do we have? What ultimates should we look out for? Like, none of that discussion is happening whatsoever. So that's your rough thing. Rotation is something like when you're like, okay, we're going to hold high ground when, let's say, they push to X point, we're going to rotate to this forward port. So, like, for example, is Dorado, right? So, like, there's the Dorado arch. Here's the high ground, the bridge high ground. There's the whole balcony area. Then there's this area. There's that slight wall, right? So, like, generally teams are holding up here with a shield. And then the payload comes here, right? It comes here. And you go, okay, rotate. That's a rotation, right? You're rotating around to then face the point and the objective. So it's not the rotations, it's the everything in between, the before fight, the between fight, the mid fight, the after fight, the ultimate economy usage, when are you going to use it, what are you going to do, how are you going to do it, ready checks. You're missing a whole lot of everything before you even can play Overwatch. Not really. Their healers are actually pretty wide open. Yep. You didn't lose the nano, you lost your Ana. You lost your Ana before you even pressed Q. Actually, you lost your Ana, and she was like 3 seconds to be spawning back in, and you still bladed anyway. So you lost your Ana. So one main thing, if you're part of a combo piece, if you're Hanzo or you're Zarya and you're going for the Grab Dragon combo, if you're Ana and you're Genji and you're going for the Nano Blade combo, your key role as a person in combination with that combo is, I'm dead, hold it, right? If you went, I'm dead, hold blade, Genji holds blade. It's easy as that. What happens next fight, right? Boom, we can blade, right? We have the opportune combo. Because blade is strong as an ability, but it's not as strong without the nano, right? It's actually very weak without the nano. The nano is a key factor in Genji surviving and being able to kill someone easily. Now you're just paranoid. So key factor that I'm going to point out to you. Yes, it's petty. It does happen. It's happened in my scrims, and I'll tell you what. It's happened in my scrims, and I've still been able to beat my opponents. Whether they have that information or not, sure, it'll take you by surprise. But once you are aware to the fact that they might be aware of what you're doing at all times, and you play accordingly, it's not an issue. It's not a problem. It's workable. It's literally not a problem at all, right? Um, sure, stream snipers happen during scrims. It's not uncommon. It's very rare. It's extremely rare, but it does happen with some weirder teams. But like I said, it's playable. It's not like an ultimate counter to you as a Sombra. They could have also had slates on you somehow. Like you had a Hanzo. If Hanzo deflected, or not Hanzo, Jesus. If they had a Genji and they deflected a Hanzo Sonic, they could have seen you. Widow's terrible here. Unless you have a really popping Widow, Widow's terrible here. Soldier Genji, Tracer Genji, Soldier Tracer, Soldier Doom. Those are all very strong heroes to play on point A Numbani. So the whole I'm going to go ahead and start assuming that you would make the claim of, well, they have a Widow. Why can't we run a Widow to counter their Widow? Because you have tanks, you have strong healers, and if you had a Soldier, a Doomfist, or a Genji, they could literally deny any space and ground that Widow can take. Widow is very limited to what she can do in terms of angles. She can sit on that bus and get like a very tight angle from here. She can go on high ground, which is contestable by your tanks, which is just an easy clap. Genji can contest it, Doomfist can contest it, Soldier can peek around and like dodge the shit out of her shots and Helix rocket her and put a healing station down and out damage and kill a Widow every single time. Um, there's you have so much maneuverability and contestability for an enemy Widow that like as long as you play your angles correctly and you play your roles correctly, an enemy Widow on an Umbani attack A point is not going to be an issue whatsoever. It's actually going to be a burden to the other team. Overflick. Utilize your scope. There you go. Okay, good. He's a little better, right? We're calling things. Diva, diva, diva. Ball. Ball. Ball one, ball one. Good. Cool. I have Nano. Just call it. You could have Nano Diva there to save her. Theoretically. I mean, I wouldn't have done it, but... Because you already won the fight, technically. They were just staggering in. While you basically had a pretty big force. Okay. Diva just ate the pulse bomb, I guess. So the cool thing to EMP is that it doesn't get blocked by walls and solid objects. So if this was a wall and the Sombra hits an EMP here, and you were here, you would not get hit with the EMP.
He said, "Oh my God, why?"
So you saw the Sombra, you saw her walking into like the quote unquote center of your team, the EMP. You could have literally just walked around the corner real quick and break line of sight with her to not be affected by EMP, which would have been the ideal play. Use Nano yourself. Huge. Nano for Nano is good. It's a great play. Nano for Nano essentially is the play where you're hoping that your teammate with Nano is going to outvalue their teammate with Nano. You're trading the same amount of ultimates, and it's an ultimate that you can gain relatively quickly. So if you come out on top on the trade, you have a higher chance of winning the fight. Even the pressure that it applies. Like if both teams just cuck out and just sit way back because there's an Nano in play, it's fine. You're buying time, and you're buying your own sanity basically, because you can literally just sit back and like get ready for what's about to happen next. Yeah, as Ana, your best options are to like do what you're doing is jiggle peek this, but the most safest option is right here, and your tanks will basically protect you right here. And if anybody goes over here, your tanks can dive in. Your Lucio can stay here to make sure that nobody tries to come flank you, like a Tracer or a Widow, to try to come get you all of a sudden. After you confirm the fact that the whole fight is being focused on this high ground, while all the meantime you're just healing, just straight healing them. Once you know the full focus is here, your Lucio can again just jump over and help out the rest of the tanks and try to win the fight. In worst case scenario, you have the option to drop, right? And when you drop and create distance, you're going to have a very nice angle over the point itself, and you're only going to be missing about like 35% of the actual point itself. The very back right corner you won't be able to see and will be LOS, but you have a really good overview and you can still heal to the top high ground there.
Fucking Minecraft.
Sleep. Oh, we goofed on that. It's okay. Nano someone quickly. Oh, nano someone. Nano Diva. Anyone. Nano Diva. Nano Diva. Huge. Massive. Keep him. Keep him. Keep him. Don't move ball. Don't move ball. Ball anti. Huge. Perfect. Your Lucio should be booping him off the high ground. Like, if he's about to wake up and like you have like your team is focused elsewhere, like your Lucio as a job as Lucio would be to remove Hammond from high ground. He was in a pretty optimal position where he's just on the bridge. You could have booped him off the high ground. That makes him commit his hook to try to get back up the high ground. It's going to take him time, so it buys time for your team to do what they're doing and for you to still be able to stay alive for them to then finally be able to react and help you out. Especially if you're fending for yourselves. Don't peek her. Don't take this fight. As Ana, never take the 1v1 with Widow, especially if you're not scoping in. If you're going to take the fight, at least scope in to do damage, but primarily don't take the fight. What you're doing right here, right now, staying here, and line of sighting your Widow so you can heal your Widow would be better play here. Okay, Winston needs heals. Yeah, look how much more effective scoping in is to hit targets versus to when you're not scoping in. Yeah, on a nano target like Diva, I wouldn't try to go for the sleep. I would try to go for the nade first to make sure I land the anti, because the anti is going to be more beneficial than a sleep on a target that's currently contesting point in overtime that is nanoed. Again, scope in. Like your biggest resource is your scope for like medium to long range shots. Scope. There you go. Huge. Z9. Not necessarily. Both of you, like both of these teams, have no idea how to attack Anubis A. It's not a matter of like we're really good at defending because we're playing X and Y character. Both teams literally don't know how to attack Anubis, or not Anubis, Numbani. Jesus. So both teams are terrible at attacking. That's literally what it is. Because point A provides a lot of already existent advantages. Like for example, high ground is an immediate advantage to a defender because you have ease of access to it and you have a setup phase where you literally get time to set up your positioning to where you want to be before the fights even begin for both sides. So from the gate, you're already set up on the high ground just as a default thing that's provided to you by the game for free. It goes on a silver platter and goes, here, take the high ground, my child, right? For free. You can go, no problem. No stress there. You get it by default. Because you get that high ground advantage by default, an attacker does not have that. They're stuck on the ground. So now they have to figure out a way to get to you on the high ground. And that's where a lot of teams have problems, is figuring out how they're going to get to the high ground, and once they're there, what's going to happen, what they're going to do, and so forth. And it's that whole strategizing before the fight happens instead of doing small chatter or asking what happened specifically, like I went this, did that, what happened. It's more like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to use these ultimates, 3, 2, 1, go. This. Kill that. Right? So like it's a lot of planning out. So the biggest problem like I literally saw from both sides, just from the enemy team and from your team, you both suck at attacking on Numbani Point A. You're both terrible at it. You both have no coordination or plan or anything really thought out in terms of what you're going to do. So it's not that you're both, in terms of team-wise, amazing at defending the point. It's just granted to you as a default, just because of the way the point is laid out and how the map is made. But overall, you both just kind of suck at attacking the point to where you're basically doing nothing the whole time, right? You're wasting time. You're not coordinating. You don't have a real plan overall. So that's that. That's both attack and defense of the map. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me, hit me up on the side. If you have any of your VODs or anything you want me to look over, let me know. If you have any personal advice you'd like or any personal VODs you can submit, you can do that as well. Just shoot me the game itself. It must be a losing game. I don't want winning games because, sure, there's little things I can point out, but usually you win because there's a reason, right? Because you did good. So you want to showcase games where you do bad so that you know what you did wrong, what you did bad. So again, my name is Jackal. Again, I've been coached by XL2 Stux, who's on the Academy team for New York Excelsior's Academy team. I've been coached by assistant coach for Dallas Fuel Jane, Tickety, and I myself do some coaching on the side, as you can see, obviously. And I'm also a certified assistant for Stux himself on his Discord server. So if anything, you can catch me on there. You can catch me on Discord directly. Usually in a server that you're probably in as well. So just hit me up if you have any questions, concerns, or anything you wanna hit me up about. But again, thank you for watching. I hope you took something away from this and learned something new or got some insight on what to do better. And best of luck in your climbs.